Sam Shihab.
I'm Brian Burke.
And we're from the law firm of Sam Shihab and Associates. It's 6 o'clock Eastern Time on a Monday, which means we spend an hour going over employment and immigration law, any questions you have, current events, and we discuss a topic that we think would be
interesting,
relevant, interesting, and important.
Yeah, it's what we're getting asked about. Yeah.
Yes. So today we're going to talk about what's stopping my green card from being approved when we return. All right. So current events, up-to-date information. Let's talk about new release from the State Department, USCIS.
Yeah. So, well, Sam, the subject of this presentation is what's stopping my green card from being approved, and the number one thing is USCIS slowness, the backlog. They have a bunch of cases, and everybody's out there whose green card's not been approved. Theirs is in the stack somewhere.
Yes.
So USCIS so kindly gave us an update as to what their backlog is looking like. Come on, PowerPoint. Oh, it's gonna be a jerk. Let me fix it, Sam.
All right. So what?
There it is.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Let's go.
There it is. So USCIS updated their FAQ to say how they're doing. And here it is. And now there's the whole quote, but here's what they say. Through July 31st, 2022, the two agencies have combined to use 210,593 employment-based immigrant visas for fiscal year 2022. So, hey, that's pretty good. That means for August and September, they have left, 80,000 to go, right? 210,000, 70,000 to go, right? And they say also in there that USCIS in 1 month in August approved 10,000, right? So they're talking about that being a high point, right? So I guess I can't expect them to hit 10,000 every week, but 70,000 in 2 months, that's doable. They did that they did 80-some thousand during the Q4 of the last fiscal year. 70,000 in 2 months doesn't sound so crazy to me.
Put that thing on the screen again.
I'm putting it back on the screen again.
Because for me, it's the last sentence.
Yeah.
And we are well positioned to use the remaining visas.
Yep, that's what they've been saying.
So that is a reaffirmation. And this is an August 26 update.
Yeah.
So this is very recent update. And they're saying, we're going to use every green card available to be approved in this fiscal year.
Yeah, and so we saw on the last visa bulletin, the September visa bulletin, that was, USCIS saying, the Department of State saying, we may run out of these things before the end of September. It really sounds like it's going to be pretty darn close, where they're basically going to, coast through to the end of the month, and the visas are going to run out as soon as, the month of September runs out, it's looking like.
So let's talk about the inventory.
Yeah.
Not every case that is current will be approved, it sounds like.
So maybe, but one thing we've been talking about, and people have reminded us of, is the duplicate cases. USCIS has published some data out there about what their adjustment of status inventory is. And one thing that it is not really commented on there is there's got to be tons of duplicate adjustment of status filings out there.
I have had the honor of talking to a lot of our subscribers, and some of them have sent me very sophisticated Excel spreadsheets. And thank you, without mentioning the names of everybody who has done their own calculations and shared it with us. And I've even called a couple of the subscribers, and because I was so impressed with the work that they're done, and they were doing their own projections. But the piece that came through all that is the duplication. So USCIS and everybody referring to this information that's out there, that USCIS claiming 30,000 duplicate EB2s and 30,000.
30,000 cases they expect to have in inventory.
Inventory. I'm sorry.
At the end of the year.
For EB2 and another 30,000 for EB3.
Yeah.
And the reminder we received is the multiple adjustment and then the spouse adjustments.
Yeah.
And people have sometime an adjustment for EB1 and an adjustment for EB2 and a possibly third adjustment for EB3, and the spouse may have a couple of them.
Yeah, I can't help but think it's going to really knock out that EB3 backlog, considering there's people who are current in EB2 and not current in EB3, and those EB3 cases are going to be rendered moot by getting green cards in the EB2 category. However, I know a lot of people who have filed in EB3 and EB2 and are current in both. Yes. And you're just waiting for that race between those cases to end. So again,
I'm discounting 30% of that number easy.
Yeah,
I'm very comfortable with that, right?
Yeah.
So great. So, but still, there possibly be some cases that may not be approved that they have to tackle in the next fiscal year based on the sheer volume of cases.
Yeah, there's one certain category that we know for sure won't be getting green cards this year. It's people with priority dates, an EB2 of December 2014. The final action dates only made it till December 1st, 2014, and whereas the furthest EB3 made it in October of 2020 was January 1st, 2015. Yeah. So we know that there's a bunch of people who had priority dates from December of 2014, EB2, downgraded so they could file their green card in the EB3 category, and their EB2 date's not current.
And they cannot interfile yet.
Yeah, and they can't interfile, and they can't get green cards because their priority dates aren't current.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why green cards are not getting approved other than the fact that they cannot get to them? So the first thing, why my green card is not getting approved is not every case will be approved. There will be cases that are current that they're not going to be able to get to, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's really the number one reason, and we're going to go.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a good possibility from what Department of, I guess what USCIS said. Yeah, there's people who they think may not get to for sure.
Yeah. So that would have called for retrogression, but it doesn't do any good to retrogress because obviously there's nobody filing.
Yeah.
So why would you retrogress?
Yeah.
And that where a lot of people are arguing that, well, the October visa bulletin may not move forward because they want to get to those cases first. But the filing date should move.
Yeah, I mean, filing date must move. We were talking about this literally just before this presentation went live. No matter what, USCIS has a bunch more visas available in the next fiscal year.
Yes.
And in order to process those green cards, they need to actually get them in their hands.
Yes.
And meaning they have to move the dates forward in some way. The bottom line is everybody sort of agrees at this point there's going to be 190,000 green cards available for the next fiscal year. And
140,000 by law,
plus,
and everybody's projecting. There's a consensus. Looks like everybody's looking at a 50,000 number of.
That's where the consensus. It's not a guarantee.
Nothing's guaranteed. We don't know. Yeah, nobody knows for a fact. Yeah.
I mean, to get those cases approved, they have to have a current priority date. They have to get them in the hands of USCIS, meaning either final action dates or dates for filing. Those dates have to move forward.
What would be another reason why my case is not getting approved?
It's everything else. It's investigations.
Criminal issues.
Yeah.
So criminal issues looks like they're interviewing all those criminal-related issues.
Yeah, and honestly, it's something that's taking up a lot of our time lately. It's, people are getting, interviewed and then it's, generating RFEs. We want to talk more about this case. Not a problem for everybody. And generally speaking, if you check the box on the green card I-45 form and, you give an explanation as to why, your criminal thing is a minor thing, odds are you're not going to be interviewed. But if you leave that ambiguous or you actually do have a serious criminal matter that they think might have an immigration implication, that's going to be an interview and that's going to be an investigation. And ultimately, if you have an interesting case, that officer who does that interview is probably going to have to either, hand that up the ladder to a supervisor or, an attorney out there in the government who's going to basically determine whether or not you're eligible for a green card.
So one of the main issues is unauthorized employment.
Yeah.
So unauthorized employment is when USCIS suspect that there is an employment that occurred outside the H-1B visa. An example, there was a citation of somebody who was cited selling cigarettes to
Yeah.
a minor, for example, who was on an H-1B visa, and he claimed that he was helping his friend
Yeah.
at the store
Yeah.
and was not working. Well, USCIS wants to interview you and wants to know what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an example.
Lapses in your I-94 if your H-1B case ever got there, a couple days later than it should be, that sort of thing. So I mean, RFEs where they start asking for, hey, give us evidence, evidence of your maintenance of status since you last entered the United States. You give us your H-1B approvals or whatever your status documents are since your last approval in the United States. Those people have a legitimate issue. The USCIS is looking; they think they might have something there that you might have not complied with your immigration status since last entering, and that's the sort of RFEs we're dealing with right now.
The second issue is domestic violence.
Yeah.
So domestic violence is a big deal. And unfortunately, in certain communities, it's more prevalent and it's a problem. And that's when you and your girlfriend, doesn't have to be a wife and doesn't have to be a husband, it could be a girlfriend per the federal definition, or husband and wife fights that ends up one calling the police, and then there's a charge in court.
And the way the law works, it's that basically if you have any sort of allegation, of physical violence against somebody, anywhere near your home, that's really where the government's going to go. I want to really look into this because they can. Yeah.
And the problem with domestic violence is when the police comes in and there's a phone call. The biggest fear they have is if they don't take serious action and immediate, they're afraid that they leave and worse things happen.
Yeah.
So oftentimes there will be an arrest occurring the moment somebody claims that the other person, assaulted them. Then there will be an arrest because they don't want both of them, the husband and the wife, to be in that house this evening. They don't want that to happen because they don't want to leave and something worse happen because they lose their job. So, and then there's a domestic violence charge, and that is a serious offense in immigration law.
Now, I should mention, oftentimes these cases get pled down to something lesser if it's, your first time having, if you come to a plea bargain with the prosecutor. However, it's still a serious immigration matter. If you have that, if those phrase comes up, domestic violence, it's again, they're going to put on their binoculars, get out their microscope, and look really down deep in this.
And I'm doing this with my finger because it will delay your adjustment application. We're talking about what is delaying my adjustment application. If there is an issue like this in the record, this will delay the adjustment application, and this requires the assistance of counsel to help you out. Moral turpitude. What is moral turpitude crimes, Brian?
I want to put on my top hat. It's crimes that shock the conscience, that are base, vile, depraved.
Bad ones.
Extra bad.
Doesn't mean serious, but bad.
Yeah, bad, like morally wrong crimes. And these things can come up, like shoplifting charge, less than $50. That's a crime involving moral turpitude. It seems relatively harmless, but,
the sad stories that we hear on some of those shoplifting is the kid in the cart grabbed something, they checked out, and then they moved out, and all of a sudden the kid had a $20 item in their hand.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden there is a police report.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem. Bad checks.
Yeah.
Writing bad checks. And then there's a criminal filings on that.
It's easier to get pulled into one of these things than some people might think, and you have to disclose these things in your adjustment status application. If you think, just for the record, anybody out there, if you think because it's been sealed or expunged that it doesn't matter for immigration purposes, it does matter for immigration purposes. So if you haven't talked to your counsel about that, you really should do so.
And this will delay your adjustment
they're
application.
going to want to have a nice conversation with you about it. But what about things, Sam, that aren't related to you? That the thing that's we've encountered is if say 10 years ago you worked for an employer that USCIS investigated, maybe they thought they weren't in fully compliance with the H-1B rules, that's something they can start asking you about at the green card stage.
And the employer does not have to be not in fully compliance with the H-1B rules. They only have to suspect that the employer is not in fully compliance with the H-1B
I have been
rules.
told by an officer almost verbatim here, we don't believe that you've done anything wrong, but we had an investigation against, your employer in the
Ex-employer.
This ex-employer in the past, and meaning anytime anybody comes up who's ever been, through them, we're going to be talking to them.
And that will delay your adjustment, and it's not your fault. And as you go through employers, I don't know, with the way USCIS goes around doing business, everybody seems to be in suspicion until proven innocent, and everybody has a report that can write, and then it goes into the file, and all of a sudden somebody is on a database somewhere, and that will delay your adjustment, and you got nothing to do with it.
Big picture, I guess, on all these things is there are things from your past which, if you're still here, you're doing fine. I guess it wasn't a problem. It can rear its head again when it comes time to apply for a green card, and they want to talk to people, they want to investigate those things, and it will slow down a case. And that's, a lot of cases from like the past year I've been working on are people, it's when are they going to make a decision? We went to like 2 interviews, we answered an RFE. Where's the final decision? They eventually get there.
And these are filtering through. Eventually, they're all getting approved, these cases. But what happened is there's something in the file, and they must call an interview. And if they have to call an interview, they're going to slow down. And now they're frantically trying to approve cases. So which one they're going to do? The one that requires an interview, or the one that doesn't require an interview? If my boss comes to me and says, you got to approve 5 cases today, and you got to do that every day, I'm going to grab a file and say, well, there's a record here of investigation. Put this aside. Can I find one that doesn't have a record of investigation I can approve? So that is going to happen. There's no question about that, unfortunately, right?
Yeah. So then there's those requests for evidence, Sam. We talked about, obviously, that interview stuff was what really we're talking about, we're going to call you in for an interview when we think there's something interesting worth talking about. But there's requests for evidence, and those are still coming, in mass, I would say. Despite the fact that we are about to enter into the month of September, we're still getting RFEs for cases which USCIS is probably hoping to approve before the end of this fiscal year. Still common, medical exams, and we've also seen a fair amount of them, for supplement Js, asking about, hey, supplement J and kind of related issues about the employer. Now, Sam, I have a beef with these supplement J RFEs. Everybody knows the rules under supplement J. If you change employers, you give them a new supplement J, and if you filed without an I-140, you filed a supplement J at the time the case was filed, meaning USCIS should trust that the supplement J that they have there is good. They don't always do that. So, it wouldn't be so crazy to make sure you have an updated supplement J ready for USCIS because those RFEs are out there.
Well, it takes one day to create. Yeah. The one that takes more time is the medical exam that you have to have ready, and they don't want you.
They don't want you to send it in prematurely.
Send it in, yeah. It's screwing their system. So get ready for an RFE if you haven't submitted your medical or your medical is outdated, and send it as soon as possible so they can approve it on the same day they receive it. That's all what they need.
Anecdotally is all we can really talk about because USCIS controls the big data narrative. But when you get those medical RFEs, we've been seeing some very quick approvals after those responses have been getting in. So that's a good thing. At least they're really are trying to act upon those.
What about pending I-140s? Obviously, that is going to be definitely. I'm not sure they're looking at I-140s with the same gusto that they used to be looking at I-140s.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you need that I-140 approved for your current for EB2 and your priority date's current, but for that, I raised the question of whether or not they can approve your adjustment of status this year.
Yes. Well, what else do we have, Brian?
Well, the last thing is, interviews. Interviews, Sam. USCIS schedules, interviews, about 4 or 5 weeks out. And if you're getting an interview at this point, I I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if you get an interview notice today, odds are you're not getting that green card during this fiscal year because...
I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, if they interview today and it's coming in the next month, you still have time. You can get the approval
I can
on
tell
the
you
same
this.
day.
I was literally at an interview on September 30th last year, and that person got their green card that same day. But if your interview is scheduled on October 1st,
No, that's gone.
Yeah,
that's gone. But if it's approved late September, to me, they want to approve it.
Yes,
they'll approve it right there because they have numbers and they want to get ready.
So I will be very interested to see what I'm doing, in the last week of September, and maybe it's every day of that last week I'm at a green card interview, which would be very fun.
Yes.
But
Yes. So that's what you're looking for. It's really not a complicated issues, but those are the issues that we're dealing with. And I got some frustrated people calling me right now, waiting for a result. And I got a lot of happy people. I mean, approvals are pouring in.
I am seeing people, Sam. Not everybody who has a problem gets that green card interview. A name came through my inbox, and he said, "Thanks, Brian. My wife and I just got our green card." And I said, "Oh, I remember you. You had a great big. I did do a waiver application at the consulate for a spouse. And green cards, no interviews. So not every
many years ago with all kind of headache and now boom, things are back to normal. Green card holders, life goes on.
Yeah.
So all of you guys will probably be in that position soon. Some of you before others, but they're pushing hard. They're saying they're going to approve all of them. We got more green cards coming next year. We have many opportunities. So with that, let's take a moment break and get ready to answer your questions. All right, so we're going to jump on questions. And for those who posted questions before the 6 o'clock hour, we were unable to print them and bring them here. So throw them back in there, and we're going to do the best we can to answer those questions.
Yeah, we have wrapped up our presentation a little bit early, so we have plenty of time to answer questions.
There's opportunities
Always
here.
a fun little challenge for us.
Yes, absolutely. So we take the first one.
Heck yeah. So... from VJ Singh, EB2 refiled in 630, an old interfiled in 328 case with transfer under life basis are in NBC. Not sure if moved to field office. Do I have any chance before September end? My priority date is for 2013. Will I be safe from retrogression next year? So, one, I've heard people have success with USCIS by calling the 800 number or using the Ask Emma service to figure out where my case is. Usually USCIS, as of late, will send a transfer notice to let you know where the case is at. So I guess if you haven't heard or rather seen a notice from USCIS, your case may not be moved to a field office.
But the information we have is that the 2013 priority date is safe from retrogression.
Yeah.
So that's the information we have, that you should not have a retrogression problem next year if one happens.
Yeah, one thing, retrogression, for anybody who's not aware, it's not great. It means if your priority date is retrogressed, it means your priority date is no longer current. It means you're ineligible to receive a green card until it is current again. However, your I-485 stays pending. You can apply for EADs and APs based upon, that pending I-485. It's not as good as a green card by far, but it's not the end of the world, I guess.
Yes. So I got part 1 of 3. Get ready.
Okay.
All right. So I don't have marriage certificate for my spouse. I-485 EB2. We are married in India in 2015. Now the Indian Marriage Register Office said they don't give certificate without coming to India. Part 2. There is no concept of issuing a non-availability of marriage certificate. We don't want to travel to India right now. What are my options of getting a marriage certificate inside USA? Lastly, I have a marriage certificate issued by Indian Embassy in Chicago, and we have kids born in USA along with other secondary evidence like joint home ownership, bank account, and please suggest. Well, it's an interesting question. Obviously, it's funny. I mean, clearly, you have to have proved the marriage prior to filing the adjustment application.
This is true.
So you can go in here and get married again, but you're going to have to file the second adjustment for your wife.
That's a great point. Yeah,
that's a horrible situation for her to be in.
But that's how you quote unquote get a marriage certificate in the USA. You can get married if it's not recorded. If it's not recorded, it's not legal anywhere else where they're happy to. But however, I presume you guys came to the United States together. You were able to prove to the U.S. consulate, abroad that you were legally married in order to get H-1B, H-4 visas. I'm presuming that. I'm not. Maybe they weren't. But they said they were married in India. I mean, the consulate had to have been satisfied as to that.
I mean, what's missing here is obviously whether or not there's an RFE.
Yeah.
You really need to have consult. I don't know what state you're in and what state you've been in. A good, knowledgeable domestic attorney, because there is something in the U.S. that has been abolished in most states, but not in every state. And recently, we're from Ohio, was abolished 20 years ago, something called common law marriage. Common law marriage is if you hold yourself as husband and wife in certain states, you are considered husband and wife in that state and therefore in the whole country. Now, like I said, it has been abolished in all states, but not in every state. So the question for me is whether or not you can be creative and find a place where, one, recognizes common law marriage, two, you were there, and three, you held yourself as husband and wife. Normally in a hotel registration, when you've entered husband and wife, something. So there are narrow opportunities, not great opportunities to resolve that. Let's take the next question.
Where are the green cards approved, field offices or NBC? So that's a great question.
They're approved in the field office.
Well, they're approving them in the field office now, but there's nothing. The USCIS never said we're not approving cases out of the Texas Service Center or the Nebraska Service Center. I'm sure somebody out there in the chat can probably say that I've been approved with Texas Service Center or Nebraska Service Center in recent times.
Yeah, I'm sure, but the majority now are being approved in the field office.
Agreed. We are the typical trajectory we're seeing is it goes to a field office. So I guess I would say the National Benefits Center is generally speaking not approving these cases. When your case gets transferred to the National Benefits Center, it means probably it's going to a field office where there's an officer just waiting to approve it.
Can I file a duplicate I-824? Is it legal or may cause an issue?
I don't see why you couldn't, but I don't see why you would.
Yeah, it will not cause a legal issue.
The government's always happy to take your money, your filing fees.
And you can file duplicates, as many as you want, but I don't know why that would do it, but...
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're trying to get the green card process started for somebody, and it's just a slow process, unfortunately. Yeah.
May I know why my case are going to case remains pending and what it means? I know
so
many cases. Oh, okay.
I think this is the situation where there's a status message from the USCIS tracking. And I think this is the one where they got an interfiling request and they don't have a good status.
It's a glitch in their system that defaults back to this silly message.
Yeah, I think that's the one you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
USCIS is not processing the adjustment status cases from this series. What should we do? How do you know that?
Well, there are super cool websites where people sort of like share data on immigration.
They're not seeing these
cases. They're not seeing these be approved.
Well, you know what? It's a very, very good.
I mean, I would bet Ganesh's case is in that range, and his case isn't approved. And I bet he's talked to other people that aren't. Yeah. I don't think there's anybody else. I don't think there's an answer to that question that can be found.
That's known, but most likely it's probably a glitch in the information collection. That is weird.
It's the most logical situation is that it's magical anecdotal data.
So that's a good question. By any chance, do you have any perm data approved by country and by year, trying to see how many perms are getting approved
So yeah, somebody in the comments of our last YouTube video put this out there, and I, you and I both comment on these, but I comment saying, that's a really good idea, looking into it. So I will tell you this: Department of Labor publishes. If you do a Google search right now for perm disclosure data, they publish the data on a fiscal year basis on all of the perm cases. Basically, it's an entire dump of the contents of every ETA 9089 form that gets filed. And in there, I believe they even include the country of birth of the filer. I have considered going in there and trying to parse that data. What you can't really tell very easily though is what category is somebody's I-140 is ultimately filed in.
And we need a volunteer to help us out. So send us an email if you want to volunteer helping us out parse this data, because we need your help to help pull some data.
It's a massive.
We've been getting a lot of help from you guys, by the way.
Yeah, it's perm disclosure data. It's published by fiscal year. It's entirely available online. I just don't know if you're going to get useful data out of that.
Yeah, but we're going to give it a shot if we get some help from you guys. October 2020, EB3 downgrade. From Mr. Ramani. Transfer on the line basis to EB2 completed, case transferred to field office, medical submitted, 45J approved. How soon can we expect 45 approval from this point?
Man.
As soon as possible.
I would.
But I mean, stand in line. I mean,
no guarantees in life, but I mean, if you could tell me right now, I just tracked my case online, that's Damodaran, and I'd say, oh yeah, I believe that. They're trying to get to these cases before the end of the fiscal year. You sound like somebody who they're primed to approve.
Yeah, and I'm assuming no criminal background. I'm assuming no questionable background. Nothing is going on. You're the kind of case if they grab, they would love to approve.
We're seeing approvals come in all the time. Yeah, yeah. So 210,000 green cards.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's 70,000 left to go in 2 months. Because that number was as of July 31st. That's less than 40,000 a month, and that's what they were doing in the beginning, the first quarters of this fiscal year. It just seems inherently doable
at this
for
point,
them.
At this point, absolutely. Any good chances EB3 May 24 China will become current in October?
Well,
and we got to pull this visa bulletin, Brian.
Yeah, I think I actually have a copy of it at the end of our presentation here. No, I don't.
That's what I thought.
Let me pull it up here.
Yeah.
So we usually have a printed copy, but I think I may have accidentally disposed of it.
Yeah. So as you look for it, sorry, I took the mouse.
No, you're okay. So Visa Bulletin, Department of State, September 2022 is where we're at right now. EB2 China, May 24th. Final action dates for. I'm sure this is very exciting for the audience, me talking about the Visa Bulletin and where I am on it. So it is for anybody who's curious, EB3 China final action date is the 22nd of April, 2018.
So what we're looking here at China, obviously, there's EB3 and EB3 other worlds is about 3,800 green cards allocated, and then you have the flow across that we will deal with, which is not going to be very helpful. So there's going to be little movement, in my opinion.
That's what I've been saying. I mean, you are about a month off of current on final action dates. Dates for filing, though, I mean, they're not taking dates for filing, right? But you probably already filed, considering that 22nd of May. Actually, I realized something, Sam. EB3, May 24th, China. I don't have a year here. I presume it's got to be May 24th, 2018, this is the dates for filing. It's May 22nd, 2018. Mm-hmm. I think there's a very good chance if you're talking about May of 2018, Fanyang, that you are going to be looking at filing in October. I think that's a reasonable chance. Dates for filing. Dates for filing are typically accepted by USCIS in October. That's the trend for the last several years.
Sounds good.
Yes, that was Amit further commenting on the number 210K. That's for the updated FAQ, updated on 26, which I think was Friday.
Yes.
So with new FAQ data from USCIS, thoughts on EB2 in October. Mine is of January 5th, 2015. So JCP ready, you're so close to current. USCIS did say in that one legal filing that they thought it would maybe stay the same, but I don't know. I just
well, I mean, final action date and dates for filing are two different things, and we believe there's going to be a lot of India green cards available next year. For EB2, we project more than 80,000 available throughout the year, assuming 50,000 spillover.
Yeah. So January 5th, 2015, you're about a month off from current. Dates for filing, there's a very good chance that'll be accepted, and dates for filing are usually further out than final action dates. I think there's a very good chance that JCP Ready there could be filing in October.
6 months prediction for EB2 fiscal year 2023 is final action. Well, that's an excellent date. Is this filing date or final action date? We did not necessarily, we did not create the distinction because of the following. We believe that throughout the year, looking at our calculation, I got a big sheet here.
So let me so last time we talked, it was we just talking about the overflow. We thought about 50,000 going just available, and it's going to mostly go to EB2 India, right?
Right, but we did not create a distinction.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, a refined calculation of what India will have next year, with the assumption of a 50,000 spillover, and assuming that the government will be processing about 1 year of the current cases. When you say current, like let's say, the rest of the world is current in EB2, that's really 1 year worth of approvals that they have to go through. Mm-hmm. With these assumptions, we believe that for the full year, EB2 India should receive over 80,000, as a matter of fact, 84,000 green cards. And that's assuming no EB4 flowing up
EB4, EB5 up
to EB1 and then flowing down to EB2 and flowing across. Yeah. So that's a generous number. So we think that at least the filing date should move half a year. And by the end of the year, they got to move it such that they approve 84,000 green cards for EB2 India.
Yeah, I mean, so what we're talking about is if USCIS, pats themselves on the head and clears out their entire backlog, well, they're going to, at the end of September, well, in October, they're going to have, need to get new cases in the door to use all the new visas. They're going to be the estimated 190,000 visas they're going to have available for this year. And they need to get them in as soon as possible. Yeah. Meaning they got to be taking a lot of cases in, be it final action dates or dates for filing.
So we didn't create the distinction between either one of us because there's just so many unknowns out there to the process that to come out with a date, and also there's the policy decision. Yeah. The government may come out and say, we need a break. We just cannot move now. We cannot take,
But they can't take a break, Sam, because they have to, so this is where the other side of it is, we don't want to get slammed like we did in October 2020 and take 5 months just to get our receipt notices. Yeah. But if they have to use those green cards during the year, they have to get those green card cases in their offices to start processing.
Based on our assumptions, more than 60% of the 190,000, assuming 50,000 spillover, will go to India next year.
Yeah, and that's greater than fiscal year 2020 than the prior fiscal year.
118,900 and some green cards in EB2 and EB3 will go to India based on certain assumptions we plugged in. Now, whether they make them available early or later in the year, they're going to have to approve that number of cases, 118,000 next year, to not have a wastage in 2023.
And this is really hitting my brain right now, but how can they do it? Because the cases they have in their hands right now, Sam, they've effectively had since October 2020. Their processing times for adjustment of status are somebody tell me 18 months right now. If it takes them 18 months to get a case approved, and they have these new visas available for the next 12 months, they gotta
get cases filed.
They're setting themselves up for massive wastage again. Blech. Yeah.
If they accept cases late, because in their inventory there isn't enough. There isn't 190,000 green cards in their inventory.
That's the point. Even if they have leftovers, from that they don't cases they can't issue green cards that are in their hands right now, they sure as heck don't have 190,000 cases in their hands, and they have to use them this fiscal year. You got to get them in there. Something's got to give in October.
Yes. Does USCIS process EB2 even after September 30th If so, assuming no spillover for family-based, how many EB2 gets from October 1st? So I gotta get my, so you got 140,000.
Yep.
Right? And you have your emails? We can probably drop a zero in here, and that will calculate.
Well, I mean,
But the
it's right
bottom
here.
line is this. The bottom line is this. You get 190,000, 140,000 is going to get distributed. You get the first 7%.
Well, 28%. So 28% of those are going to go to EB. 28.6% are going to go to the EB2 category.
And capped by 7% per country.
Yeah.
So you get 3,800.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you're going to have unused green cards.
From the other countries that won't use as many EB2 visas, right?
Yeah. So I don't have these numbers with a zero assumption of a spillover
So what's
in my
the
chart.
minimum then, Sam? 3,800?
That's the absolute minimum. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they will get a lot more because there's going to be spill down
Yeah.
from the unused EB1, which there's going to, based on our projection, they're only going to use 10,000,
So-
9,000 out of 54,000.
I guess what I would point out to Starzies is that we know there's always a minimum amount out of the 140,000 that's available for every country, and there's so much overflow that goes across the categories and comes down from unused ones that you don't really know for sure what the actual availability is going to be for EB2 until the year is done, really.
Yeah, but to answer your question, I need to plug in some numbers to calculate. I don't have that on top of my head, but it's easily calculatable based on the
typical usage of
based on available
what the other countries typically use during a
Yes.
fiscal year. We can get a projection as to what India EB2 might be available beyond the 3,800.
Yeah. So what we know for a fact is there is 54,000 EB1 available based on the 28.6%.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the 50,000. So I got to revise that calculation. So I don't want to I don't want to confuse anybody. So I don't have these numbers.
So at least 3,800, but probably a whole lot more than that.
Well, there's going to be tons more
Yeah.
from flow across and flow down.
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, yeah. Inter-filed April 2022. Initial adjustment status filed October 2020. Priority date is 2012. Wow, that's a really old one. Case is stuck in SRC. Response from Congress when U.S. inquiry is that it's under administrative processing. What does it mean?
Administrative processing is usually something you hear from the Department of State, but I think my answer to that is it means anything and everything. You know, it means that
Investigation.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're looking into the case. There's something there that they're doing their investigation. So what you want to ask yourself, what did I come across in my immigration history or in my employment history that will give rise to USCIS pausing at my case, and how can I shore it up when they come to me asking me all those questions? How can I be ready for them and be ready?
Yeah, my short answer to that is it means something, but we're not going to tell you what it is.
Yeah, we're doing our due diligence.
Yeah.
So hardly do I find the beneficiary surprised by what it is. Oftentimes, they can guess to one of three potential issues I've had.
Yeah.
And you need to have that conversation with counsel to be ready when they come and ask you. Brian.
Is there a sequence in allocating the spillover visas from Roe?
Well, the spill across is by the oldest priority date.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Part 2, also talked to Tier 2. This is Ajay Shah again. The case is still under EB3, but they see an update on my case, which means officer is probably assigned. I'm lost to what I can do more. My priority date is 2012. So it sounds like an interfiling request was put in but not submitted. So you can submit that interfiling request again. I mean,
I hate to say it, but you can file a lawsuit.
yeah.
I mean, you can. I mean, if you're frustrated and to the point where it's affecting you, sue them. It can move things along.
Yeah, I guess that is one way to get answers. And if if the only way that USCIS can survive such a suit like that is that they have a compelling reason why your case is not approved.
Considering spillover 50,000 in 2023, how many would be allocated to EB2 India? Please clarify. Well, that's an excellent question. So you have to know more on the allocation, because if you have a spillover and you have a 28.6% allocated per category, EB1, EB2, EB3, and then 7.1% for EB4 and EB5, then the next question is what's the rest of the world have used and what's remaining. So that's another number you have to guess at. And what we did in our guesstimate is we said that USCIS is capable, that the available backlog of the current cases is 1 year, because it takes at least 1 year to process. So we anticipate, based on that number, for the entire year, because the spill down and spill across happens quarterly, it doesn't happen on day one, that for the entire year, we believe that EB2 India should have over 84,000 cases available based on the anticipated usage of the countries that are current in the EB1 and EB2, because what happened is there's no spillover from EB2, from EB2 to EB3, because of obviously India is substantially backlogged. And
the bottom line
China's
is, you know, most of the extra visas are going to find themselves in the spot, the highest spot on the visa bulletin where the biggest backlog is. It's EB2 India.
It's gravity. Think about water flowing, and then you got a spot that's the lowest point, which is the lowest priority date. Everything is going to, I don't care what path it takes, a lot of them is going to end up in EB2 India until EB2 India and China
balance out.
And
then they'll both come up together.
And they'll both come up together. And EB4 spill up to EB1, down to EB2, spills across, oldest priority date, back to EB2 India.
If my priority date is from Gautam, if my priority date is current, should I apply for I-140 and I-45 together or separately? Great question. Toss up, honestly, Sam. I mean, get your I-45 in as soon as possible is my answer.
100%.
Yeah.
There's no toss up for me. Sorry, Brian. That's a no-brainer.
Okay. So, my brain started the toss up, and I said, wait a minute, get your I-45 in as soon as possible.
Absolutely together.
I have encountered the occasional person who, you know, calls me up for a consult. It's, you know, I got lazy on filing my I-45, and then my H-1B got denied. It's a nightmare. Get your I-45 in the door.
100%. I don't see any reason to delay your I-485 filing. All right, I'm working for my sponsoring green card employer. I am on H-1B, but I also have gotten my EAD advanced parole card. Can I work for a second job on EAD or H-1B and continue working my job with my sponsoring green card employer too? So there are out there, I've seen opinions by non-attorneys that give the wrong advice on this, which is disappointing. You cannot be in working on your EAD and maintaining your H-1B at the same time. Some people think that you can work for one employer on H-1B and you can do your EAD. No, you cannot do that. So can you do it? Yes, but you'll be working for your sponsoring employer and for any other job on EAD. The H-1B is no longer in place.
It's oil and water. The EAD and your H-1B don't mix.
Yes.
I think I'm just asking a different question though, Sam.
Yeah.
I think he's just asking, hey, can I have a second job either on EAD or a second concurrent H-1B filing and still have, you know, basically, can I have two jobs while I'm being sponsored for a green card by one employer? And the answer is yes, as long as ultimately your intent when you get a green card is to take full-time permanent employment with that sponsoring green card employer.
Okay. So that's the second interpretation of the question, which is a good one. That would be a good answer for it as well, from Mr. Shah. Take that one, Brian.
Sure, from DD. Priority date 2014 February, interfiled to EB2 in June, case transferred to new office of the jurisdiction August 2nd. August 27th, changes to fingerprints applied. I did not file medicals. How is my case going? When and what next? I mean, it's anything, at the very least, it sounds like they're looking at your case, which is always a good thing. And if hope for an RFE for medicals, because if you get an RFE for medicals, I would hope if that's the last thing they need for your case, there's a reasonable chance you could see that green card before the end of the fiscal year.
And I'm assuming your medical is ready
Yes.
at your desk, ready to be mailed.
Yeah.
The moment that RFE comes in, send it the same day it's received, which will be awesome for you. Hopefully they'll act on it immediately. From Jagan.
He got his green card on August 17th, so I'm going to push the clap button.
Yeah.
Yay.
Awesome. Yay. All right. So I got my green card approved on August 17th. Thank you for your support. You're more than welcome. My wife's I-44 is not approved. We're seeing a lot of that, by the way. And still waiting. Both applications moved to the same field office. Is there anything I can do? Just annoy them.
Yeah. So somebody's in my. I just was talking to somebody about this. We're going to send a letter to the local field office and say, "Hey, you approved the primary person's case. Come on."
Yeah. You can cross one more number. It takes a minute to approve the second one. I don't see a problem getting approved. Just send them service request. Keep hounding them until they do it. It shouldn't take too long to do it. Yeah, absolutely. And that's wonderful. Congratulations. My I-485 receipt date is June 27. And BM done on 27 of July. Okay, good. It's a straight EB2 to NBC. My priority date is November 13, okay, 2013. What are the chances of getting approved before September 2022? Pretty darn good.
Well, I don't know, Sam. It's a late filing, June 27th. That's about 2 months ago. I think that
June 27. My I-485 receipt date is June 27.
Yeah. So my take. So it wouldn't surprise me if you got a green card before the end of September.
I agree, Brian.
But I can't say all the signs point to yes, because it's just been such a short amount of time.
Yes, good catch. Since you did such a good job on the previous one, I'm going to give you
Sure. From AKS 1 of 2. Priority date July 2013. EB3 downgrade I-485 filed September 2021. Tub to EB2 filed on May 12, 2022. Waiting for I-485 approval. EAD and AEP is approved in February. And here's part 2. I have a nice job offer to another company and would like to switch. What are my chances to switch without risking my I-485 process? So I want to go look at the back of the time. So this time frames here. So 485 filed September 2021.
So TUB resets the 180 days.
Ooh, this is true. Yes.
So May 12, 2022 until the end of the year. No.
May plus 6 November. You cannot change.
You cannot change your employment because it resets the 180 days.
Yeah, transfer underlying basis means resets the 180-day portability mark. So
not only you cannot change, and you should continue to have the full intent to work for your employer up to 180 days after May of 2022, and then you can then revisit your intent after that.
You put yourself at risk if you
yes
do that. Yeah.
Yes. Sagar, are you seeing approvals for refilers where EB3 I-140 is pending?
I gotta admit, that's not a data point that I am looking out for, honestly. It's kind of hard to track.
A lot of people asking that question. We'll look into it and maybe come out with an answer next time around. I don't look at it either.
Yeah, here's the bright side is they are eventually getting to these EB3 I-140 downgrades. So legally, Sam, it shouldn't stop them from approving the case. But again, it's a question we've been gotten asked a lot.
Can we expect prior date March 2016 in the next 4 years?
That's about for anybody who's not aware, it's about 1.25 years off of what's final action current right now.
So I have no visibility 4 years out, Brian. I mean, yes, the answer is yes. You should expect it, and also we should expect also reform because it's getting ridiculous where we're at right now.
Yeah, I don't think it's so crazy to get there in the next.
Well, I mean, the reform we're gonna have to change. Things are done. I think that the country is ready for that. We just need all Republican or all Democrat.
Or just all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, or enough votes out there to make some common sense changes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have it today. Okay, so Neela Marioin. And
That's
I apologize for mispronouncing your name.
That's that same question again, Sam. Will we, pending EB3 I-140, stop the green card approval after interfiling?
Yeah, so we're going to have to, no, it shouldn't. It shouldn't, but we will look at the data point and see.
Again, I worry, that they look at a case and say, oh, something that's not approved here. I'm going to go for an easier one where I don't have to think about that.
Based on July monthly Department of State family-based visa bulletin, how many visas will spill over to especially EB2 at the end of September? So
yeah,
so that's an excellent question. The number one, the Department of State report did not change our projection of 50,000 spillover across the board.
Yeah, it was really kind of in line with what the projection was.
And the spillover to EB2 will be 50,000 times 28.6%. I don't have that number in front of me. You can do the math. But the spillover plus the original 140,000 going to EB2 will be 54,340. That's 190,000 times 28.6%. I don't have the spillover number alone if I separate it. I don't have it separated in my sheet.
My version is simpler, Sam. The majority of visas in any category, or an EB2 category, are going to go to EB2 in India because it is the most backlogged. That's where, as you said, that's where it's gravity.
Yes, a gravity, and it's a lower spot, however you do it. But yes, but you're going to just multiply 50,000 times 28.6%. And that was going to give you your specific answer. All right, so June and 176,000.
I believe that's the number of green cards they approved at the end of June. Because I was saying July, August, September, they had to approve about 100,000, 106,000. And meaning they did really, really good in the months of June and July. They have about, I said 70, maybe not as good as I thought, but about 30,000 across them. Still pretty good, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
From Senthil Kumar, my priority date is April 2014, straight filed in EB2 June 2022. The customer service line said the case is in regress visa status. Should I request for congressman, and will it delay the process? So that's interesting. That can't be accurate because your priority date is current. You know this. That's why you're asking this question. So there was a message where when they were putting in people getting that message saying cases in regress visa status. I don't think that's necessarily accurate, what you're hearing from that, but
not all the status are accurate. But it will. To answer your question, a congressman inquiry will not delay your process.
Yeah.
So if you feel strongly about that, go ahead and pursue it.
Yeah. It's free, they have dedicated people in their office who help with
it depends on where you're at, because there are certain locations they won't even take your call. Other locations they welcome your call. So depending on where you're at and who's the congressman, whether they are immigration friendly or they are not immigration friendly. Ravi, also, what is your prediction on India-specific EB2 petitions compared to rest of the world EB2 visas?
So basically, I think the question is really, how much is India going to get versus the rest of the world in EB2?
Okay. Well, there's a lot of assumptions, but we're predicting. Let me see here. So I have 84,000 for EB2 India for the whole year, not on day one because there's a quarterly spill across, a spill down. Out of the 190,000 green card. Now the rest of the world EB2. Based on my projection of approved cases, because we have 2 quarters only and we've extrapolated to the next 2 quarters, this data is not released, that the rest of the world will have 11,700 green card approved, that will be, and then for India, 84,000.
Yeah.
So, but that's a lot of assumptions in these numbers, and these are not, they're just calculation, prediction. To the best of our ability. Obviously, we don't have every piece of information.
My prediction is still far simpler. Most of them are going to go to India EB2 because the bottom line is if you look at the I-140 approval data, India is far and away the most popular country for people immigrating to the United States.
62%. Our prediction is 62% of all green cards, employment-based green cards, will go to India EB2 and EB3 next year.
Yeah.
That's our expectation, which is over close to 120,000 green cards. And it could be more potentially, but that's just a projection.
Yeah, it's a educated guess, which we have about 5 different reasons for wanting to know.
I don't guarantee any of these numbers, but these numbers is based. It's just an interesting calculation to trying to take a look at the future.
Yeah.
A long time ago, I was asked a professor in engineering when I was in engineering school, what is the percentage of time your projection is right, and what's the percentage of time your projection is wrong? And because the projection is a number, and the answers could be anywhere, the chances of your projection being wrong is almost 100%, because half the time you could be under or over by a little bit. So it's just a projection, it's just an exercise. This is not the government numbers, and it can change.
It's hit the 7 o'clock hour. Let's take 1 or 2 more here, and we'll wrap this up.
Yes, absolutely.
So from Kish, is it Kish? Klish? I can't. I'm testing the limits of my
K-I-S-H.
K-I-S-H. So after interfiling from EB3 to EB2, case moved to field office. Sounds good. RFE received from field office for medicals. Sounds good. After field office received my medicals, 45 days approved, but I-45 is in case remain pending status from the last 3 weeks.
Frustrating.
Yeah, there's a part two here. With no updates. Since 45 J's approved at the USCIS, moved me to EB2 lane or not? Definitely. So if the 45J is from an interfiling, it would appear that they've received and processed your interfiling request. What could be holding up your case? Sam and I, for the first half of this presentation, talked about, any number of things. You could have the same name as somebody that they don't like, and that could be causing them to, take another look at you while they sort things out.
Yes.
Take one last more and we'll wrap it up.
Absolutely. So let's take one last more, and who's a lucky person? Hopefully we can give you some good information.
Yeah. So if you think 110K going to India next year, then 2016 PD current?
So no,
I've seen Immigration Dream's YouTube channel before. Immigration Dream does some really intense calculations. I can't help but say it's really worth watching.
Yeah. So no, we don't expect 2016 to be current next year, unfortunately, because remember, the number of green cards is applied. These numbers apply to you and your wife and your children. Yeah. So you have to multiply the number of I-140s by 2.5 factor. With that, thank you so much for listening to us. Hopefully we've given you some helpful pointers, and we will see you next week at 6 o'clock Eastern.